Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Mardek, and of course in the last episode we were going through Lifewood and we encountered the shaman, some fairies, and generally saw that this place is ginormous, and yet it gets even bigger. The reason for that being that, of course, sure, there's Lifewood, but there's also Dreamwood. Now, before we step through this portal, I do just want to take a moment here to talk with some friends and see what anyone might have to say about this given area.
I like the feeling of this place. It's pleasant, full of vitality. I feel a century old again.
A century old? Throw off? How old are you? I'm actually not sure we've ever asked you that question, come to think of it, and that is perhaps an indication that you are a lot older than we might have thought you were. Okay. As for other people, Elwyn?
I feel frisky, Mardek. I so want you right now, and I'm not even trying to be subtle or anything this time. It must be this forest. I'm full of energy and I feel so alive. How about we find a nice, quiet glade somewhere and take advantage of the situation, eh? Like rabbits. Come on! This doesn't happen every day. You'll love it.
Yeah, so you know Elwyn has been not so subtly hitting on Mardek, and that would be definitely the most aggressive hitting on Mardek that we've seen thus far. As for Charlotte?
This place makes me feel really healthy and happy.
Okay. Nice. Seems like the party's in good spirits. As for Slimnik? Oh, seems like this might be a more general update. This is, of course, Slimnik's own personal music.
In my travels with you, I've noticed many differences between the attitudes and practices of your people and mine.
Okay. Oh?
Honor is of utmost importance to we reptoids. Our honor is our life. Without honor, we are all but dead. Our society is built around this fundamental idea. As such, there are many laws, customs, and rituals that prevent us from acting quite as freely as you humans tend to.
Oh?
You personally are an interesting example, as you are a sort of bridge between our mentalities, in a way.
Is Mardek secretly half reptoid, half human, half Anukai that's possessing his mind? I don't know, that sounds like too many halves.
You are a knight and you live with order and honor as required by your status, yet you still possess the fundamentally chaotic and fickle mind of a human.
Excuse me? Who you calling I mean, let's be honest. Mardek does have a little bit of a fickle mind. You're not wrong.
You have to try to do what comes naturally to us, what we would have to try to break to act chaotic. We find it wearying to stray from our order. Yet you desire play and fun in order to be healthy. It is interesting. I feel so out of place outside of my land of strict rules, I must admit. Though I wish not to elaborate on that matter. I find this concept of gender the most droll of all. It seems to color almost all of your interactions, based on whether the gender of each conversing party differs or is the same. I notice you personally have difficulty talking to the... what was it? Female ones?
Slimnik, no! Calling Mardek out! Do I? This is news to Mardek.
Indeed. It perplexes me. You see, we reptoids have no concept of gender, as each of us can breed with any other of our species. I imagine it must be horribly limiting to form a bond with an individual, only to be unable to mate with them as they are the same gender as you. Your choices would be limited to those who necessarily are different by their very nature. These are my observations, and though surely interesting to discuss and ponder, I think that we should return to our duties now.
Interesting to hear the different Reptoid perspective on that front. Yeah, I suppose culture is very different, and apparently Mardek is having a little bit of trouble with the ladies, even after Elwyn has been, again, trying to make some pretty aggressive moves at this stage. But does Slinik have a more specific update on this area in which we currently find ourselves, Lifewood?
I don't much like idle conversation.
Really? Not even for this location? Okay, so with that, let us plunge into Dreamwood. Brace yourselves. And if we take a look here, we have an entire forest that is Dreamwood. So, if we even go back to the previous location we were in, we'll find that it's looking pretty big, 5 chests. We have some fig juice, which I suppose is fitting in the Dream Realm. Anything else over here that we might want to pick up? These stone slabs of sorts are now glowing rather eerily. And what we'll find is that although the layout is very similar to what it was when we were going through here in the Lifewood version of the forest, some areas that were previously blocked now will be available to us. And now we are running into other enemies that I don't remember if we've seen any forgotten faces yet, but these are of course not the enemies that we would find in the Lifewood version of this forest. As a reminder, slash possibly looking at this guy for the first time, huge physical defense, definitely not the way to go against these guys. Fairly weak, at least relatively speaking, to the moral elements here. Otherwise, in terms of fire, water, air, and earth, a little bit resistant across the board. So, what is the best route for us to take here? We could use Spirit Song. And here we see that, of course, again, Mardek, his mind is not really capable of handling the Dream Realm, so if you're wondering why we have an odd black head with a white circle in the middle, yes, that is Rohoth that we're seeing there. So, as for Sharla, I think it is safe to say that you ought to use a Lightning Bolt here. Forgotten Face does get the chance to take a turn, and does hit Slinik, fortunately not for too much damage there. It's not a huge concern. 30 defense on the Forgotten Face. Will that be enough to completely mitigate Mardek's damage here? It is Light Elemental, so that might help. Well, it's enough to deal some damage, but not much. Slinik, I'm actually curious, do you have higher base attack than Mardek does? Mardek only has 32, actually, whereas you have 38. That might be enough of a difference maker there, and also higher strength, I believe, than Mardek as well. So, except apparently that's not good enough. Actually, we should have checked. Yeah, because as it turns out, the Forgotten Face is completely immune to physical damage there, so we might have known that Slinik would not deal any damage at all in that case. Let's... do we continue to use Spirit Song here? I suppose we can. I was wondering if we might have the opportunity to swap over to Requiem, because we're, I'm assuming, getting close to mastering that now, but want to make sure that we have enough damage with Charlotte to take this guy out this turn, and unfortunately, that is still not the case. Deals very little damage to Mardek, so not a huge concern there. Will he have enough damage to take this one out on this turn? Yes. Okay, so fortunately, only one of those Forgotten Faces, so not a huge task there to take that out. And we got some Fig Essence, which we've seen a little bit already, as you can see. Halloween does have a little bit in her inventory right now, but I would imagine that that will be a bit of a limited resource for us. Not to say that it is finite in nature. I don't remember if that is or is not the case. Here is rather dramatically placed chest. I don't know if this is going to be a battle. It isn't. It's actually a turquoise, which is a rather rare gem that's said to be the crystallized soul of some ancient creature that lived before the world began. While this may not be true at all, turquoise gems do contain the ether element. I believe we purchased one of these from Meropolis, and it was not cheap, because it is, certainly, pretty rare, and I think these might be limited in terms of how many you can get. I don't recall. There's a chance you can get more of these, but at least for the time being, this is definitely a nice pickup, because it does have 5 magic defense, which is a lot, and the Spirit Craft ability, we saw this previously, we've not yet used it, but it is a Solar ability, and Resist Ether. Now that could be useful right around now, tell you the truth, because we're going to run into our fair share of Fig enemies, and we just saw that the Forgotten Face was using a reasonable amount of those Ether abilities, so if we have someone who's not particularly concerned with one of their miscellaneous items here, like Mardek, I think, is mostly just using the Snake Stone for that additional poison resistance, but that was one thing while we were in Lifewood. When we're in Dreamwood, it's probably a different story. I think it might be worthwhile for us to throw on the turquoise on Mardek. The main question there would just be, does he have enough RP to also use Resist Ether? He may not. Does also give +2 Spirit and a little bit of Ether resistance by itself. So let's take a quick peek. On the RP side of things, if we were to say remove plus 10% HP, we would still have to get rid of double gold to make space. And he's so close to mastering that right now, I'm hesitant to go that route. So maybe we do stick with plus 10% HP for the time being and try to find another person, put this on. Could there be someone else, maybe? Elwyn has mastered plus 10% HP from the body crystal, so that's not doing her too much good here. It does have a little bit of passive HP, which is not the end of the world on a character that doesn't have a lot of HP to begin with, so that was pretty helpful for us, though mitigating damage more effectively also would be pretty useful too. So maybe that is reason enough for us to put this on Elwyn. I also am assuming she doesn't have much in the way of passive skills, so she might have the RP that Mardek does not currently have to spend. We did, of course, take away one of Mardek's miscellaneous items there, and what do we throw on in its place? We could throw on an Evening Star for some status resistances, although it's not a lot of them, and just one defense and one magic defense. I think that's actually not terribly overwhelming at the moment. So maybe we go for something else here, and I know we've been talking about this a few times now, but we don't have a ton of great miscellaneous items on us right now. We really should go back to the save crystal and pick some of those up, which is not to say that that's all that difficult to do, yet we never seem to remember to do it, so my apologies for that. I'm sure we can find something else for the time being, at least to throw on though. Like, say, maybe we could just put on the Snake Stone again for that poison resistance. Like we were saying, not going to be super relevant in the short term, but it's a placeholder at the very least. The other thing is, I believe we recently saw that Slimmick leveled up, and did he pick up any RP in that process that he might be able to use to greater effect? He could theoretically get rid of Dragon's Blood here, which gives him a little bit of resistance to poison, numbness, sleep, and paralysis. That would give him enough to throw on an additional strength or agility. And you could make a case for that. I think let's just keep the Dragon's Blood for now. I think that is pretty good value for just 1 RP. Anything else, though, that he could throw on? Nothing there. However, he could fit in Degeneration, and in fact, we have seen some enemies recently that do have some regen abilities, so that could be useful for us. Let's keep on going through Dreamwood here. And now we have Forgotten Face along with a few whims. So let's use Spirit Song again, and I think we will find that the same strategy will probably hold up against these guys as well. 10 magic defense, 0 magic defense, so magic is definitely the way to go, and it doesn't make much difference which element we use. Not that Charlotte has much choice in the matter. It's going to be air. So we'll do what we can. Of course, by splitting the damage between several enemies, we are limiting the amount of damage that we do. And I was going to say, people were very determined to target Mardek there. However, that was actually an extremely powerful attack that someone just used on Elwyn. It dealt damage. She is also confused, meaning she will attack randomly, could attack an enemy, could attack herself, could attack any other of our own party members, and also silenced, which means she cannot use any of her magical abilities. She can only use the default attack. So, that is not great. Do we deliberately try to just eke our way through this fight and remove some of those statuses at that point, or do we make a point of doing that right now? So Mardek with Remove Taint could get rid of Poison, Blindness, Curses, and Zombification. None of those things are the statuses that Elwyn is currently suffering from. So for that reason, I think it would mean that we would need to go to an item here. Now we could use a remedy which removes every and any status effect. Does seem like that might be a little bit overkill, especially if these guys turn around and use that same skill again, and then we have to reapply the remedies over and over, and we quickly burn through what is one of our best potions. So for that reason, I'm thinking we might actually wait this one out, at least for a little while longer, see if we can get rid of, say, the Forgotten Face, because I believe that is the one that applied those statuses. Mardek, of course, doesn't have much in the way of offensive abilities there. Could a Fire Breath from Slinick be enough? Because we saw that, at least for the Forgotten Faces, they were completely immune to physical damage. The Whims, same story. So that does mean that Slinick is going to find things a tad difficult here, but the Fire Breath can deal a fair amount of damage, and there, admittedly, probably should not have even tried to hit that reaction, but that is one benefit of Elwian being the person who is confused. It is our weakest physical attacker, so even if she does opt to attack our own party members, only dealing on the order of 12 damage, so not a huge deal there. She did, of course, target the character with the highest defenses, so if she were to target someone else, probably would have been more damage. But I think we're going to be okay here. And they continue to stack up all of the status effects, or at least try to, on Elwian. Mardek, now we're talking about the Whims. And they have how much physical defense? 20. Is that actually a little bit less than the Forgotten Face had? I think it might have been. So you might be a little bit better off here. They are also a little bit low on HP. So yes, you can take them out in one hit. That might have actually been reason for you to target these guys instead of the Forgotten Face in the first round. Slinick, however, you are still destined to do 0 damage with a physical attack because it's physical elemental. So let's use a Fire Breath. And what we should probably do is swap Slinick's axe to one that, although has lower base damage, is light elemental. I'm hoping we still have that in our inventory right now. Slinick, do ya? You do not. Oh, you do. Okay, the Sun Axe. So, we'll go from 38 base damage to 35. It is a decrease in that way, but the light elemental will be key, because as we saw with Mardek, when we're trying to use physical attacks, we deal 0 damage, but when we're trying to use light attacks, we can deal some. So I think that trade-off is more than worth it. And let's also just double-check real quick on Elwian here. She's still silenced, however, she's no longer confused at the end of that battle. So silence does mean she won't be able to use any of her abilities. Is probably reason enough for us to use an item here. Probably could if we have Liquid Sound. Yes, we do. Just use that to get rid of the silence and not have to worry about throwing on a remedy, because that would be a little bit overkill in that instance. Okay, but what else do we have here in Dreamwood? We have a chest to the right. Let's maybe go there next. There we find a purple conch, which I believe we have found 1 or 2 of already, and it is a crafting material of sorts, if I remember correctly. And more pathways for us to take. Another chest here. This time the Phoenix Pinion for the Super Revive. Bring someone back with full HP rather than just half. And that is a cave. And this is a fight against some enemies that I'm pretty sure we have not yet seen. Harpioneros? They are Dreamfish. They're also Figments. And no defense, no magical defense, so in that way they should be a little bit easier to deal damage to. However, notice that they have 50% evasion, so at least for physical attacks, that is going to be difficult to hit them. So it might mean that magic is still the way to go. They are likewise 100% resistant to physical attacks, so all the more reason for us to have swapped over from Slinick's previous weapon onto the Sun Axe. So I think, for that reason, we probably continue Spirit Songing. Carla, you can Lightning Bolt. Not sure we're going to have enough damage to take them out here. We won't. And they are quick enough to go next. Thought Pulse. We've not seen that one yet. And that was an odd attack. And so odd, in fact, that I missed the reaction. As for Mardek's turn, we have some people who have taken some damage here. Is it enough to be concerned? Not just yet. Of course, you're not guaranteed to hit here, not by any means. Let's give it a shot. And if you do land that hit, more than capable of taking him out. Slinick might still be best for you to use a Fire Breath here, just for the guaranteed hit. Yeah, that way we know we're taking you out, rather than the 50-50 dice roll that we would have had with a physical attack. Okay, nothing special out of those guys. However, what is the deal with this cave here? Okay, interestingly, we find there are a series of walls here. There's a white one, a blue one, and a cyan one. So we will need to go through various areas of Dreamwood in order to flip those switches and get through here. And that is one of the ways in which we will find ourselves going through many different areas in Dreamwood. It is huge, and we saw, at least in Lifewood, some of those switches earlier. But there aren't any here in this location. We could, of course, go down even further to the south, which we've not yet done. More of the Dreamfish. How close are we to mastering Requiem? We're somewhat close. I'm wondering, could we maybe use it here? It seemed like no matter what we do, Charla's not going to deal enough damage to take these guys out here. So that's not a difference maker, at least for her spells. Okay. Damage taken, yes, but nothing too critical just yet. Mardek, we were perhaps a little bit lucky last time that we were successful in landing a hit with you in the previous fight. You more than landed a hit. You actually crit that time, though. I was going to say, if you do miss, then maybe our strategy here would not look so great in hindsight, but we were able to squeeze in additional Requiem while still managing to take these guys out. So that's good to see. So this time, yes, I think we go further south, and this was originally the starting area in Lifewood. Fortunately, there is still a save crystal here, so we can heal, and we could, say, go to item storage and make a point of throwing on a better second miscellaneous item for Mardek. Was there anyone else who was in a similar boat? Maybe the Onyx Ring for Slinik? As for who is hogging all of the best items there, that is a good question. So we have the Lapis Lily for some resistance to silence. That was something that we saw previously on Elwians. That might be reason enough to start to use that. But otherwise, just one magic defense and water resistance. Maybe not the most relevant right now. Other than that, are there any other items that we might want to use? I think Solar has a really nice Eclipse Amulet here, which is good for some defense, a lot of magic defense, additional spirit, and a fair bit of light and dark resistance. Not sure we've seen too much in terms of light and dark attacks, but if we're just looking for raw stats, then this might be the way to go. So let's at least swipe that off of Solar to give ourselves that as an option. Other than that, we have... I suppose we should probably take the sheet music that we've started to accumulate from other people. Make a point of putting that in Elwian's inventory. Loria has some of that as well. So that's part of the reason why I want to make sure that we're getting as many Requiem uses in as possible so that we can swap over this sheet music into other ones. I suppose we've already learned this one. That was her first one. Also, Clarity for resistance to confusion. We did see that as well. Maybe that's worthwhile. I thought we got an empowered version of that. Some amethyst earrings, though, that might have been a little bit better. Not sure whose inventory those are sitting in right now. And the Dark Robe is also potentially an alternative for Elwian's robe, too. We did swap over to the Jasper robe, yes, but this is probably still better for spell resistance. And I believe it's also higher defense, magic defense, spirit. The dark resistance may or may not be helpful. Okay, so hopefully that gives us a little bit more, at least in the way of options here. So if we throw on, say, the Eclipse Amulet on maybe Mardek, or maybe we put that on someone who has a little bit more of a need for spirit, in which case Charla might make some sense. Charla is working on the Vitality from the Jade, but I don't think that's a huge deal. Also, pretty close to mastering Drain HP on the Blood Opal, but maybe we make a point of focusing a little bit more on the magic here by boosting some spirit for the time being. Other people, we were saying Slinik could probably use a better item as well, and what is the best option for you? Maybe this is thinking more so back to Lifewood rather than Dreamwood, but I think an Emerald Bangle would be very helpful, because of course this has Earth Resistance, and I suppose that's also something that is not terribly relevant for Slinik when he has the Geo Jacket, so maybe we do a little bit of shuffling here, put that on Mardek. Now he has, between the green beads and the Emerald Bangle, a lot of Earth Resistance. And you know what? I'm not sure if Slinik has learned Locomotion yet. He has not. But getting some additional agility could be useful. Not sure the Paralysis Resistance is going to be all that helpful right now, but we were talking previously about getting a little bit more agility, how that might be helpful because we have a lot of people who are beating us to the punch. So by going faster, we might be able to do some of that. Get some Ether of Queens, a higher quality ether, infused with the blood of a fair queen, or something like that. It restores 200 MP. Okay, who do we want to put that on? Maybe Charla is our most aggressive magic user right now. Here is the white switch, so one of those switches that we were seeing in that cave earlier. And this is a fight against a pixie. We saw a rogue fairy previously in Lifewood. This is a very similar type of fight here. Basically, the Dreamwood version. And we saw that 3 out of 4 people just got confused. So, maybe would have been a good idea to put on one of those confusion resistance items, but we did not opt to do that. So we'll see if that comes back to haunt us here. It may have already. Elvian, you are the only person who does not have confusion, and that is the exact opposite of what we saw the previous time we had someone inflicted with confusion. That is a tad concerning, because Elvian by herself can't do too much. She isn't really much of a direct damage dealer. She's basically just a support character, so this is going to be interesting as for how this goes here. We could... You know what? I think we could use Requiem or Spirit Song there, but this is a time when, well, we would really like to use something like, say, a Remedy in order to get someone else back. I think Mardek is probably the answer, because, yeah, otherwise we're going to have lots of people attacking. And the fairy does target Mardek. Slinick attacking other people is probably the next highest concern, because Slinick will deal a ton of damage. The reason why I focused on Mardek first is because I was pretty sure that Mardek would have some remedies, and so he would be able to continue the chain going of unconfusing people. I actually don't remember what item, if any, is specifically for removing confusion. What might that be, if we have it at all? It's not a motion potion, that's paralysis. Liquid sound is for silence. There's the elixir, yes. Liquid light is just for getting rid of blindness, and balloon juice is for numbness. Holy water? Curses and zombification, but not confusion. It does seem as though we have no option but to use a remedy, which is unfortunate, but I do think in this instance we probably do need to go that route. Otherwise, Slinick is going to destroy our party from the inside out. And those attacks from the fairies, they're adding up. Make no mistake, those hurt. And I think, Elwian, this is a time for you to continue to use items rather than use skills, because we have some people who are pretty hurt here, including yourself. But I think Mardek is probably priority number 1, because if he goes down, then suddenly we lose our ability to heal other people, at least most reliably. In some cases, deal damage. In fact, let's double check. This pixie here does have 60% evasion, so it's going to be hard to land a hit, at least a physical hit. However, light and dark are the most effective elements, at least are the ones we have access to. So that would suggest that Mardek and or Slinick will be the best ones to attack here. And Slinick, your fire breath, not going to get us out of the woods here. 100% resistance to that. So, in that case, go as strong as a fig juice. Maybe we try just a mugwort juice for 500 HP back on Mardek. And fortunately, Charla misses trying to attack our own party members there, cursing Elwian, and did not successfully curse. If she's using items, doesn't much matter anyway. But Slinick, if you could land a hit here, this would be huge. You miss. There was, of course, a 60% chance of that happening. And I think we continue trying to use the attacks here, because if we can take this pixie out, then that would make things so much better for us. It does use a physical attack there, and it is Earth Elemental, so it actually heals Slinick, no problem there. As for Elwian, can you do anything else healing-wise? You could. Mardek actually could potentially even take another mugwort juice here, but I think we'll be alright there. We could attempt to use a Noxious Bomb, which explodes on impact, resulting in drowsiness, confusion, blindness, and poison for the afflicted opponent. Pixie does not have any status immunities, so that might actually be an effective way to counter it a bit. Let's give it a shot. Again, I don't remember as to whether technically those reactions there are offensive reactions for Charla, or if they're defensive reactions for whoever Charla is targeting. And that is significant because that means, are we dealing more damage to ourselves or we're dealing less damage to ourselves? So we find the Pixie actually, because it has regen, is regenning back the HP that it would be losing from the poison, so that part, not so great. However, having something like Confusion on means it might target itself, which might be really helpful. It also has blindness, so if it's using physical attacks, it's more likely to miss. But I think the name of the game is still, you try and try to hit. Eventually, we might prove successful, but it's not this time. Pixie, I missed that one, and takes out Charlotte. To tell you the truth, it's not that bad of a thing. Charlotte was confused and was just going to continue to attack us, so in some ways, you did help us there. Elian, you could bring her back, and in fact, if you did, she would no longer be confused. Using a Phoenix Pinion would bring her back with full HP. It does seem like that's perhaps a little bit overkill here. Maybe we just use a better potion, maybe even on yourself, quite frankly. Not sure it's going to be enough to make a huge difference here. If you get targeted, you may still go down. Fortunately, the Pixie continues to target Slinik. Slinik does land a hit. And that did remove Confusion on the Pixie. So here's the thing. The Pixie has regen. And the problem is, that means that although Slinik did deal damage here, if we don't take out the Pixie soon, it will eventually regen all the damage that we dealt. So we need to act quickly here. Mardek, now time is of the essence. So we really didn't want you to miss that one. Pixie uses another Pixie Flame and silences Elian. Now we weren't using much in the way of special skills here anyway. And Elian, that heal, I think, was the difference between surviving and not surviving. So maybe we continue to use those potions on you. But to be honest, you're not doing too much at this stage. You're out of the remedies, so it's not like you could remove statuses on anyone else. You're mostly just throwing potions at other people, which at the moment is not strictly necessary. Maybe we even pass with you. Or try to land a hit. Yeah, not so lucky that time. Pixie does have haste, so it will go pretty frequently here, which is concerning because that means it's going to regen its HP fairly quickly as well. Slinik, he's landing the hits. Mardek, you gotta carry your own weight here. And does do it. Ooh, Pixie down. Okay, so I was saying it in the previous episode, I believe, when we were going up against the rogue fairies, who, like I said previously, are very similar to these guys. They may be small, but they are some of the most difficult enemies that we have faced thus far. We get a Sapphire Bangle, which is very powerful, so that's a big pickup. Pixie Dust as well is useful. So, let's make our way straight for that healing crystal. There is also someone poisoned, I believe it's Mardek. Okay. Ooh. So with that, we have now explored at least the southern area of Dreamwood here, and flip this switch here. We will, of course, be looking to explore the left and right sides as well. There will be more for us to find there. Will there be more pixies and rogue fairies to nearly wipe our party? Well, I hope not. But we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll find that even if there is, it is still worthwhile. But anyways, I'll catch you next time.